we've talked a little bit about this, but the market, macroeconomics, organization by organization, we're seeing so much disruption, so much change, so much restructure, reorganize, realign, layoffs, optimization, streamlining. So I think our leadership as a profession, as a field, is under that constant disruption. And I think that means, in addition to hybrid workforces, generative AI, et cetera, our next generation of leadership and leadership growth and development has got to be intentional, more embedded in the way we naturally work and learn, where currently it's these very specific, separate times and moments when you go to training, or you go attend this, or you do these things. How do we embed that in the way we naturally work and learn every day?
Welcome to Narativ's Leadership Story Talks, where great leaders go beyond the bottom line to create lasting impact. Join hosts Jerome, Deroy, and Julienne Ryan as they uncover the stories behind real-world challenges, offering practical insights to help you lead with empathy, authenticity, and purpose. Each episode dives into how leaders use storytelling to build trust, foster connection, and inspire action. Whether you're navigating workplace dynamics, driving change, or building high-performing teams.
All right, welcome to Leadership Story Talks. I'm Jerome Deroy, CEO of Narativ.
And I'm Julienne Ryan, and I'm happy to be back, as always, here.
Yes, same here. Good to see you, Julienne. Before we move on to introducing our guest, I want to remind our listeners to subscribe to the podcast, Leadership Story Talks, wherever you find your podcasts. Leave a review. And also don't forget to check out our YouTube channel, where you can see us in glorious Technicolor, as well as go to narativ.com, narativ.com/podcast, where you can find all of our previous episodes, more than 160 at this point. So without further ado, I want to introduce our guest, Greg Smith, who joins us today, and he brings over 25 years of extensive experience managing large, comprehensive leadership and assessment client engagements. These include global leadership succession, high potential development, executive coaching, executive team effectiveness, and acceleration initiatives. Greg serves as general manager for FranklinCovey's executive coaching practice, where the coaching success rate exceeds 97%. Greg has held leadership roles in HR, business development, and consulting, providing unique insights to leaders and talent partners. Greg's client relationships have included Walmart, Deloitte, International Paper, Starbucks, FedEx, Robert Half, Walt Disney, Abbott, AbbVie, Dollar General stores, and many others across all industries. Greg holds a master's degree in industrial and organizational psychology from the University of Tulsa, and he's also a contributing writer for Forbes Coaches Council. Greg, welcome to the show. Great to have you.
Thank you. I'm excited to join you today. I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great to be able to have these insights from these FranklinCovey luminaries that we've had over the last couple of years, each with a different kind of specialty. And I know today we're talking specifically about coaching, which is something that's obviously dear to our hearts, me and Julienne, because we are coaches in our own right and help people with their stories. And I know for you, it's a little bit different. And I'm eager to hear your perspective. Before we get into that, I've read your bio and seen all these different strands of your career. But I'm curious today if you could tell us about an experience that has shaped who you are today, something that still influences you in some way or informs your decision-making or behaviors.
Yeah, thank you. And I appreciate the question, just to cause me to pause and think about that too, because I often say I've been just very fortunate. My career has led me to these various seasons and moments to where I am currently and absolutely love what I do. But you caused me to pause and think. And what I really thought back was early in my career, I had a CEO, founder of our organization, who said, if you want to fly like the eagles, you need to hang out with the eagles. And that's not necessarily that profound in and of itself. But what it told me was you're working with some really brilliant people, highly capable leaders, hugely intelligent industrial and organizational psychologists, consultants. Surround yourself with the best of the best. And I was, again, fortunate to be in an environment where I worked with them. And I've always looked to say, I'm going to have fun in doing what I'm doing. and I want to create a profound impact with the clients I'm working with, the colleagues I'm working with, the people with whom I'm partnering. And I've been fortunate to just lean into that. So I'm looking for who are the high performing leaders, who are the high performing specialists in the area that we're working in, the smartest and the best. And there's no doubt I don't even have the right adjective for it, but I am more capable and more intelligent, if I can use that word about myself, than I could have ever been by myself because of surrounding myself and aligning with those smarter, better, capable
Hmm.
individuals.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting how it doesn't matter almost. What I'm hearing from your answer is someone told you something. And as you said yourself, it wasn't that earth shattering, the saying itself. If you want to, fly with the eagles, you got to hang out with the eagles. Well, yeah, of course. But the person who tells it to you, that's really what matters, right? Because clearly this was someone you admired and you wanted to follow their advice. And I just wish that, at some point in my kid's life, I can be seen that way. that, that maybe they'll be like, yes, you're right. I should probably eat that broccoli. They're very young, so my issues with my kids are not that deep. But but all jokes aside, I'm always struck by this because so many times when we ask our guests this question about an experience, it always, I'm pretty sure always involves people, and people who said something to them, people who showed them the way in some way, and then you have the aha moment as the recipient of that. And with time having gone by, you're able to say, "Wow, that was indeed a moment for me." So thank you for that, and a good
Of
reminder
course.
for all of us.
Of course.
Building on Jerome's broccoli battles, I just want to say that what your leader coached you on is that visualize that you belong there. So it wasn't just to find the best of best, but picture yourself with them as a peer group. And so I think that's a mindset shift versus like one day, I'll be part of that. And or I'm assuming it was a he, but he pushed you to say, you know, join the group or be part of that. So I think that's really important about mindsets. And it comes up a lot with executives and your coaches, like when they know they're making that next leap and it's highly uncomfortable, um, to push and help them see themselves in that role too.
Yeah, and thank you for that, Julian. It's kind of humbling because I didn't reflect on this that deeply before. And FranklinCovey, our mission statement is enabling greatness in people and
Mhm.
organizations everywhere. And in the executive coaching practice, I take that to unleashing additional greatness and already great leaders. And so what you're making me think is that executive, that founder saw something in me and potential and knew to help unlock additional greatness. Here's the secret.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, interesting. I want to get into the coaching practice itself, and because I think, well, one of the questions I have is, certainly I don't know, and you can sort of tell us a little bit more about this, but it's not always the case that coaching is seen as a kind of must-have. And I'm wondering how how Franklin Covey and yourself as the executive coaching practice lead, how does coaching become a strategic necessity rather than, kind of a perk that leadership can get, once or twice a year during a retreat or something?
yeah, wonderful question, Jerome. And some organizations have a higher level of maturity, if you will, on the
Mm,
maturity continuum around what coaching is, the context in which it should be used, for whom it should be offered. And there's a wide range of some organizations now seeing it as a necessity and almost being forced to lean on what's the greatest lever we can pull right now. We're all experiencing more change than, it sounds trite, but it's real, than we've ever experienced at a faster pace than we've ever experienced. Organizations are changing at such a pace that the leadership implications are huge. How I must lead is different. The playbook that got me here may or may not work any longer.
mhm.
And I've got to create a new set of capabilities or round off some things that might sub-optimize me in my current context or my current role or broader remit. And we've seen time after time that executive coaching is that lever. If I want to lift the capability of an executive or senior leader fast, that really high touch one-on-one work is going to increase that individual's self-awareness about what's helping them be successful,
Mm.
what might be sub-optimizing or minimizing or outright derailing them, and leads them to identifying insights about what might unlock that next level of success or capability or ability to drive change or navigate complexity or fill in the blank. So there's a wide range of organizations who already get this as a strategic lever that we can pull. It's not an HR thing. It's not Oprah. You get a coach, you get a coach, you get a coach. It's we're using it in a strategic manner. And then on the other end of the spectrum, and it's still a good thing as organizations are realizing we've got to do something and we've got to do something now.
How do you work with big organizations and with many levels of leadership? I'm curious about just the ability to kind of scale coaching in a way. Is it, and I ask this because of the AI context, right? And so many things um, that AI is good at, or one of the things that AI is good at, is accelerating the rate at which we do things, right? But then, of course, it misses the human element. And in coaching, from my experience, certainly in training programs and that sort of thing, the human element is essential. But I wonder, do you all sort of think of ways that AI can enhance your abilities as coaches to reach more people, or in what way would it be helpful, or maybe it's completely unhelpful? So feel free to say that too.
Yes, yes. No, it's extremely helpful. And I think we're seeing it change literally minute by minute, where 2 months ago, there was a question in the Forbes Coaches Council we responded to that was, how would you use and should you use AI in coaching versus today versus tomorrow? And I think it begins with right now, the coach is tough to replace. AI, iterative AI, currently is not creating genuine, empathic, curious, deeply curious personal relationships. So tomorrow that may be different. There are aggregators that are using AI to listen in on live coaching conversations to train up those AI engines to become more human, if you will, if that's possible. So I think there's a range of absolutely embrace from the coach's perspective, what I can do to be tracking my progress with my leader that I'm coaching, my client, and how might they be using it as reinforcement, reminders, enablers of new skill acquisition, tracking where I'm seeking feedback. What might I be doing to be more process efficient as I proceed down the coaching path? Um, we have an AI coach built into our platform at FranklinCovey that's not currently intentionally designed to replace senior executive coaching. It's designed to be one of those capabilities to help you scale support for leaders who might be looking for development planning. And how can an AI coach help me think, help me evaluate my current context, my role, the skills I might need to lean into, and point me toward resources? Or even how might it help me role play? If I need to go give difficult feedback to an employee, how might it help me role play a situation like that? What it's not designed to do is deal with the contextualization, the complexity, the real human element of a more senior leader.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I was thinking that because in our journey through our colleagues and our podcasts, we've been exploring AI and meeting with people or experts and who have put systems in or coach on it. And yes, everything you just mentioned about tracking and giving some feedback about language or communication, but that AI entity out there has never walked into a room and had sets of eyes looking at them or had a crisis. The AI is only saying what they heard about it someplace else. So that human acknowledgement of, I know what that's like to make that step forward or go up another level or managing crisis. A good coach serves as facilitator or a catalyst or a sounding board just to mirror back what they're hearing. And I'd like to think that can't be duplicated by a bot. So,
Mm.
value added for your team and what they're doing. And then they're trusted because you trust somebody because you've been down a piece of that path. You're like, okay, they understand it. They have some value add because of their experience.
Yeah, yeah. We're we're big on methodologies here, and leaving our listeners with kind of concrete steps that might be able to take. So I
Mm.
was very pleased to see in preparing for this that you all have a 4-step methodology in terms of your coaching, and I wonder if you could, without necessarily revealing all the secret sauce and without it taking 30 minutes, if you could give us a little a little sense of that, and maybe through an example, to just kind of bring those steps to life a little bit for our listeners.
Yeah, no, and I again I love what we do and I love the impact we can have and I love the space of coaching that too often is extrapolated to people who think they're a coach and they're well intended. But Julianne, you mentioned I also a recovering HR person in a previous life. I thought I coached when I was in human resources. I listened, I advised, I consulted, I consoled. I did not coach from the perspective of an executive coach. So I'm happy to share anything I can to help others be more effective in that space. And you're right, Jerome. Our executive coaching methodology really is 4 phases. They're designed to be time bound, data driven, and results focused. What we've seen is that when you look at the broader market and the space of coaching, air quotes added here, is because of it being the wild, wild west and not every coaching engagement using a truly trained, accredited coach, because of varying contexts and varying mindsets of the people who are being coached, only about 50% of coaching, again, air quotes, of coaching achieves an outcome. So it's only valuable in doing something different, changing behaviors about half the time. And what we've seen is when we apply our methodology combined with how we engage with our clients, partners to partners, when we measure after having delivered coaching, 97 plus percent of the time, we're achieving the result that was identified in the beginning of the engagement. So, Jerome, if we were going to work with you for 6 months to help you increase your executive presence with regard to the investment community, when we finish working with you and we say, to what degree did we hit the mark? It's important for us to be able to say, both thumbs up, we hit the mark. And so, again, at a high level, I'll breeze through the 4 things that are in there. One is, and stage 1 is around creating alignment. And so that's working with Jerome, but that's also working with Jerome's leader and his HR or talent partner so that we have an organizational view of what's important for Jerome, what's most effective, what's most critical for you to work on to deliver more from your leadership role. That also begins to create an ecosystem of support, change, and accountability around you versus only that source being the external coach trying to catalyze change. So, alignment. Second step is data. You guys both know as coaches that it may take several conversations, lots of work from the coach to get Greg to lean back, think, introspect, consider, reflect, um, to increase my self awareness about what's getting me here, what's getting in my way, what might or might not help me be successful or hinder my success. When we use data such as 360 interviews or a powerful personality assessment, that really accelerates that self-awareness and gets my coachee leaning in quickly. Like you just parted the skies and the sun shone down. You got me and I'm leaning in now, right? So it accelerates us towards step three, which is actually now coaching. We know the objective because of the alignment meeting. I've got data that's informed where you are, how you're operating, what's helping you be successful, what may be getting in your way. And now as a coach, I can coach much more acutely on critical behavior change. Stage 4 then is really as we finish, we want to reflect on what were the objectives of the engagement, what strategies did we deploy, where are we currently, and then as I exit the equation, this should be time bound, right? You didn't hire me to be your best friend forever and ever and ever. So as I finish, I need to effectively transition ownership and accountability of sustaining the growth you've achieved and ideally continuing that to your leader, your talent partner, and you being very clear on roles and responsibilities as we exit that equation.
Mm. Yeah. That last piece is really,
Interesting.
yeah, it's
Mm,
really important because
mm.
I'm curious about that last piece actually. So that means that you then identify, or is it the role of the coachee to identify the people who are going to sort of to make sure that you're continuing on your path. And I would assume accountability is a pretty important thing too. So the more people are aware that this person has gone through this process, there's also because I would imagine, I mean, I've seen some of this, we focus on storytelling in terms of our coaching and training, but because it touches on leadership, there's sometimes a drop off after an engagement, and that's pretty natural. And what certainly avoids that is that everyone around in that team, whether it's the superior or the direct reports, they have a knowledge of that, and so they understand that, okay, we've got to keep ourselves honest here, and we got to make sure that we're continuing. Is that part of what you mean by that fourth step?
Absolutely. We all know in the learning principles and just real life experience, visibility, accountability, process tension all increase the likelihood of me working on what I told my leader I was going to work on and maintaining that as a priority and focus. So again, by intention, there's a sponsor team involved in the coaching engagement. We're not just going to engage with that individual.
I see.
They may say, "Oh, I want to work on my communication skills," and they're fantastic. You don't need to work on those. The organization needs you to work on this objective. And by professing that with my leader and aligning on it, my leader's now watching me. So I've got a heightened awareness because I know I've told my leader and ideally a talent partner or someone close by, I've put a stake in the ground. I'm working on this, guys, and I'm looking for feedback regularly. So it heightens my self-awareness, but I should be getting a regular touch from my leader. Greg, how are you working on that? How's that going? And I've seen you work on that. I saw you demonstrate that skill today and it was great because, or I saw you try it today and didn't go so great. So let's talk about that.
Got it.
So building on that, because as you know, if it's not measured or it's not embedded in someone's responsibility, it doesn't go anywhere a lot of times. So you may have the odd leader who's has a top of mind, but are you teaching your clients to embed it in their performance response, like in black and white on the screen? Like this is now you, like you're handing them off, like you start with the kid thing with the Brussels sprouts. So when you're handing them off at
Broccoli.
the coaching, sorry, my Freudian, that was me in the past. But when you're handing them off at the coaching bus stop, and you're saying, you now have to log this in that this is on your, this is your requirement going forward. Not, oh, nice to have when I get around to it and when I feel like it.
Emphatically,
Wow.
yes. Yeah. And again, part of it begins with why are we doing this? What's the business reason, right? We're not buying you a high priced friend for kicks and giggles. There's a business reason why we're investing in you, and we need different leadership, performance, and results. And so as we begin the journey that way, we also end that way. And there's a written formal plan. It's our development plan or transition plan. Ideally, we align with if the organization has it in a Workday or some other HRIS system. We're the systems and mechanisms that will help support, reinforce, the acquisition and the application of the new skills as well.
Yeah. So we've talked a lot about the process and obviously the very successful systems that you've put in place. I'm curious, moving away from this and into the future, and what do you see as something that organizations and especially leadership need to be preparing for right now in order to, be prepared for that future that's always looming.
It is. Oh, goodness. So much there. We've talked a little bit about this, but the market, macroeconomics, organization by organization, we're seeing so much disruption, so much change, so much restructure, reorganize, realign, layoffs, optimization, streamlining. So I think our leadership as a profession, as a field, is under that constant disruption. And I think that means in addition to hybrid workforces, generative AI, et cetera, our next generation of leadership and leadership growth and development has got to be intentional, more embedded in the way we naturally work and learn, where currently it's these very specific separate times and moments when you go to training or you go attend this or you do these things. How do we embed that in the way we naturally work and learn every day? How is it adaptive and agile And how does it ever flex and change with us as well? I was just talking with someone in our organization this morning who's developing new courses and is super conscious of how do we develop this 80% of this, yet it's able to flex with the ever changing context of our client organizations or respective leaders. And the third we've talked about this is separating us from AI is how do we retain that deeply human element, that thing that helps us harness and keep us unique and and valuable in that equation is our ability to cultivate genuine, empathic, inclusive, and trusting relationships that right now AI can't do. So that's something super top of mind right now is how are we that's here now, but it's increasing every day. How are we beginning to plan for and address that reality now and ramp up doing more with it as we move forward?
Yeah, yeah. No, that makes sense. And who are the people in your opinion that for who this needs to be top of mind? Because you coach people at all levels, but is this something that is squarely on the CEO's desk, or are there other functions that you see as being kind of responsible for yeah, I'm looking 6 months, a year, 2 years down the line here, in addition to what I have to do every day, because people have a lot to do. So in addition, you're thinking about the future, but do you see functions in organizations where that's where that is typically what they should be focusing on?
Yeah, it's a great question, Jerome, and it's kind of twofold. One is it should be a leadership imperative, an executive imperative, and I don't mean just coaching. What are we doing to ready our leaders and our workforce at large for today and tomorrow's challenges? Should be something that the CEO and the COO are both acutely focused on, and it is a strategic imperative. Um, our HR, our CHRO friends are already working on this, but how are we shifting their mindsets about how they're approaching it too? Too long, again, former HR as well, we fought to have a seat at the table. And then we got there and it was questionable about whether or not we were adding value. How does HR shift its mindset to, I'm an anticipator. I'm looking at where the business is going, and I know how I'm informing our business executive team about the implications to how we build critical leadership skills and human and interaction skills in our workforce as large. So I think our HR folks need to amp up how we're contributing, and the CEO, the COO, the CFO need some additional boost in recognizing that as a critical growth imperative.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense. Well, for all of you who are listening right now, if you recognize yourselves in those roles,
Mm.
you have your marching orders, and keep an eye on that future, because I know especially now, we were just talking about this ourselves, even with some clients of mine, you know, that there's so much anxiety, so much uncertainty. I mean, you mentioned them all: disruption, change. It seems to be on a daily basis, that it's sometimes hard to be able to see through that into some kind of future, any future. And so I think this is a really good reminder that, it's up to us. It's up to us as individuals to make that decision, make that choice of, yeah, no, I'm actually going to look at the future. It's my choice to be anxious and fearful about what's going on right now. It's also my choice to look at, what does my future look like in a sort of objective way, and to do that as a team with multiple voices. So I really appreciate that. We're getting to the end of our time here, so I have to get to my last question. Unless Julienne, you have a question before that, or a comment before that. I don't want to.
I'm just curious about if there's somebody that stays in your mind of who was a coaching client or a leader you witnessed making a great sea change because the methodology worked or because of who they gathered around them. Obviously, can't name names in the place, but
Yeah.
just what you
Um,
can.
yeah, no, I love it. And it's a very practical example, one that we see all the time. And this wasn't my client. It was our organization's client. One of our coaches worked with this individual. We were working with a number of leaders across the organization. This one senior executive had identified working on leadership courage, stepping into those moments of discomfort when between sales and delivery, I speak to the middle ground. The organization was having a multi tens of millions of dollars of challenge of sales outselling capacity to deliver. And it was costing them tens of millions of dollars every day. This leader needed to learn how to step into those difficult moments, gain the skill and the courage to do so. After a little over 6 months of coaching, emailed our coach one day and was so excited to say, hey, it happened. Today, one meeting, this was happening again. Because of our coaching, because of the skills you helped me with and the courage that gave me, I spoke up, I intervened, I redirected us. This one meeting today, this one intervention saved us $20 million. $20 million. And it was very practical, right? It wasn't teaching them how to do, calculus or create new algorithms for AI. It was, how do I get them to understand the power of speaking up, giving them the practical skills, and boosting their courage about when and how to speak up, specifically then in the context of when sales, who kind of oftentimes own keys to the kingdom, because we're bringing in all the revenue, what we say goes.
Absolutely.
And delivery.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love that example.
Good
Thank
story.
you for that.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I know you've just given us an example here, and you've talked about some of the insights that are very helpful to our listeners. But I wonder, in closing, if there are any additional recommendations or resources you'd want to point our listeners to, whether that's a website, an article, or anything like that, and then we'll make sure to link those into the episode notes.
Yeah, thank you for that. No, and I'm proud of the organization I work for. There are tremendous resources on our website, FranklinCovey.com /coaching, if you want to look specifically at our coaching capabilities. I think perhaps even more importantly, Jerome, you said a little bit about this, is we have choice. So if you're not working in a role or a profession that you're passionate about, that you get out of bed in the morning and now not every day, it's not a utopia. There are the days, but if overall you're not deeply in love and curious about and passionate about what you're doing, find what creates that in you, or enables you to live in that. And I would say, be curious, listen more. And I know you guys are about storytelling, but listen to those stories, listen more, lean in, study your profession, study your craft, become as good as you can be at it, and lean into the challenges that are coming at us every day. They're going to come anyway. I can choose to say, look what's happening to me, or I can choose to say, look what I get to do. Look how I'm attacking this, and attack it arguably in a more effective way with more effective outcomes versus being the victim in the situation of what happened to me. So just change your paradigm.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Right.
that's why coaches are so necessary, because that is really, in terms of facilitating that paradigm, it's easy to say, but getting into those limiting beliefs and all of those things that get in the way of our ability to, we can see we can see what paradigm needs to be shifted, but it's much easier said than done to actually shift that. And the example you gave was great. So to show us that. So yes. Well, thank you very much for spending some time with us today. I think we've gotten a lot out of this conversation. I love that your call to action for our listeners was to listen more, because that we are big on listening. Without listening, there can be no storytelling. That's always what we say. You can have a fantastic story to tell. If nobody's listening, it will not have any impact. So you have to focus on listening first. So I really appreciate that. I appreciate the time you took. I want to remind our listeners of a few things. First of all, if you've been inspired by this session, just like we have, there's many things that Greg talked about that align with some of the programs that we run in terms of listening and storytelling. So if you want to consider enrolling yourself and or your team in our group and one-on-one training programs, you can go to narativ.com. That's NARATIV.com. And right now we have a very special gift in the episode notes. We've partnered with the New Mexico State University's Global Campus to create an on-demand, self-paced storytelling training where you'll learn how to find, craft, and tell stories for interviews, leadership presence, and pitches. It's all online and it's asynchronous. If you want the human touch, please get in touch with us. That's obviously available to you. We're always ready to listen to you. So thank you as always. And don't forget to subscribe, leave a review on your favorite podcast platform, go to our YouTube channel, where again, you'll see us in brilliant Technicolor. And all of this drives the word of mouth. And we couldn't be more appreciative of you all listening to us and driving that word of mouth. So thank you so much. Thanks, Julienne, for being my wonderful co-host. We get to do this one more time. I'm so happy about that.
Yeah.
And thank you to everyone, really. And we are eager to see you next time. Thanks a lot, everybody.
For more information on the narrative listening and storytelling method and how it can help your business, go to narativ.com.